Hello and welcome to the Dandy Does It channel. Today we're in the Dandy driveway about to change one of the front brakes and rotors on my 2015 Chrysler Town and Country with the 17-inch wheels and enhanced brake package. Sound like fun? Let's get dandy. As you can see, I'm all ready to jack her up. Got my toolboxes over there, and over here some of the more featured items I will be using today. Got, of course, a rotor, brake shoes, wheel chocks, very important, safety, and then penetrating oil, brake parts cleaner, caliper grease, brake fluid, and this little baby right here, which I have not had the pleasure to use yet, but it is specifically for compressing dual piston calipers. But the first thing we want to do is pop the hood and take the cap off the brake fluid reservoir so we don't start compressing the piston later on and then wondering why it's not going anywhere. Take off the cap to the brake fluid, and we'll just set that right here on top of the beauty cover, and then cover it with something to keep stuff from falling into it. Probably wouldn't matter if something does fall into it, because we're going to suck that brake fluid out in just a little bit and replace it. Chock the back wheel so it doesn't roll away on me. Gonna position the jack under this double weld right here. Jack this thing all the way up and then rest it on a jack stand while leaving my jack in place so I have double protection. Safety first. Now I'm gonna just jack this up at first, just enough to take some pressure off this wheel, and then I'm gonna get rid of the lug nuts and then take it up the rest of the way. Now my shop teacher in high school always told me to use an open hand method when pushing down on any type of wrench in case it slips, so your hand's not grasped around it, because then you'll hit your knuckles and possibly break your hand. Always use an open hand. Now this last lug nut, I'm just going to crack it loose, but I'm not going to take it all the way off, because when I jack it up, I'd like it to not kind of flop out on me. I'd like it to stay there. Just in case the jack were to fail, I'd like it to land on the tire and not on the inner wheel. So got it loose. Let's get to jacking. I want a lot of height on there. I want to get my jack stand under here for extra protection, and then set it back down a little bit until it rests on both the jack and the jack stand. And the way you know that it's securely on the jack stand, you can kind of take this little handle right here, and if it's not moving, then you're good. Now we'll get this last lug off and pull out the tire. So we're going to want to start by removing the caliper pin bolts. One at the top, and one at the bottom of that caliper. Let's see if I can get a shot of it. Oh, there it is. And then we're going to pick up the outer part of the caliper, and we're going to hang it with a bungee cord. I just got an old beat up bungee cord, and we're going to hang it from this strut over here. And then we're going to pull off the caliper bracket. Fun times. Okay, these caliper pins, I found them, they are 13 millimeter, so that's where we're going to start. And I've done this so many times on other vehicles that I can just do it by sense of feel back there. Now remember, when the bolt is facing you, it's righty loosey, lefty tighty, and these things generally don't have a lot of pressure on them, so kind of gently break them loose. Be careful not to hit other things down here, like the cable coming there. That, I'm really sure what that cable does. I think that's the ABS sensor, and these just come out very easily, just like that. And I generally like to hang it down and then beat it that way with my hand, very gently, because if that thing is stuck, what you don't want to do is make the problem worse. You want to take a pause, take a breath, put your thinking cap on, and make a plan. We now have the caliper loose. Going to put the bungee on the strut. You want to make sure that thing is secure, because if there's a way for this thing to wiggle off, I promise you it will. And be very gentle, because you've got a brake line there. You do not want to tweak that rubber brake line. All looks good with this caliper, and you generally want to fish it through one of the holes in the caliper before you hang it. Now to get at these 21 millimeter bolts. Now these things torqued on there pretty good, so I'm going to probably need to get my wrench set here and then beat it with a hammer. Might take some doing. I think it's moving. Good. Got the top bolt loose. Let's see if the bottom works. I have not done this brake on this vehicle yet since I bought it, which was almost a year ago, which is pretty good for driving a couple hundred miles per day. And got the second bolt. And out comes the caliper. Let's see what kind of condition these brake shoes are in. I gotta tell you, there's still some meat left on these, but I'm going to replace them anyway, because and the caliper pins are sliding pretty nicely too. Even though there's still some meat on them, I'm starting to get some shakes when the brakes heat up, and that's sometimes indicative of maybe the place I bought them didn't replace the rotors and just put pads on them, and when the pads heat up, when I hit the brakes, I'll get a little shaky kind of stuff. I've already checked out my suspension. My suspension is fine. So we're going to go ahead and take care of this right now. See if the rotor is stuck. So we are going to try to see if we can bang that loose. There's no helping hole there. A little helping hole where you screw a bolt in and try and get it off. No, that thing is on there. I'm going to spray some penetrating oil and let that work on it while I go start cleaning up this caliper. Good old trusty liquid wrench, and I'm going to spray it here where the lug nuts go in. And then I'm going to spray round where the hub goes in. I'm going to kind of get behind it and see if I can spray up where it kind of meets up with the wheel hub. That kind of work for a little while there, and let that do its magic for a little bit, and then we'll come and hit it with the hammer some more and see if we can get this thing off. I'll give it a few whacks with my trusty rubber mallet. That way, if I can't get this thing off and I have to take it somewhere, at least I didn't ruin it with a hammer, with a hard hammer. But boy, that thing is really on there. So I'm going to let the penetrating oil do its thing over there while I clean up this caliper and get it ready for new shoes. And hopefully when I get done, the penetrating oil will have worked on that enough to where I can get it off, because I do not have a rotor pulling tool anywhere on me, and quite honestly I'm not really sure what to do in this situation, although I've got a couple of bright ideas that might work. Let's go ahead and get this thing cleaned up. Pop out the springs here, the anti-rattle clips. And I always like to save these things in case I ever need them at a later date. In case something happens to one of them, I can always take one of these out of the box, clean them up, and reuse them. But for right now, I'm going to put fresh. The channels in there look pretty darn clean. But I'm going to kind of just take my screwdriver in here, gussy it up just a little bit. Now when you maintain your brakes regularly, this stuff gets a whole lot easier. Now that's all cleaned up. We're going to move on to our caliper pins. I need a rag, don't I? I've got a paper towel. That'll do just fine for now. Caliper pins appear to be in good shape. I'm liking that. But we're going to clean them up anyway. Pull them out, pull off the boots. Look to have the proper amount of grease on them. Clean up the inside of these boots. Get some of my caliper grease. You don't need a ton, just enough. And I just noticed that these are two different caliper pins. I don't really think it makes a big difference. They're the correct length. Just kind of lubricate it up. Just get a little coating on there. Don't go crazy on it. Just a nice little coating all the way around. I generally like to put a little on the boot as well. I'm not going to put a ton in the boot. Just enough to give it a little protection. There we go. Boot that sucker down until it clicks in place. This is pretty clean. I'm not going to worry about getting into that chamber there. There we go. Maybe burp it a little bit, get some of the air out of there, because this is going to be... There we go. I like that. Let's get the other one. I'm liking that. Okay. Let's get our hardware on there. Some nice shiny new hardware. Oh, I don't have to rip the bag. It's resealable, which is pretty nice. Get 4 of these out of here. The thing I like about these clips right here is, if you look in there, they've got a little lip right there. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. It's got a little lip right there. The shoe sits in there, and when it compresses against the rotor, and then this little spring kind of, when it's done doing its job, kind of helps pull it back off, and that helps your brakes last a whole lot longer. Snap that into place. Perfect. I like perfect. I like it even better if I can get that rotor off. Otherwise, this video may never see the light of day. I think I will. I think I just let the penetrating oil sit there and do its job for a while, and it will come off. I've had tough rotors in the past, and I have not had the special tool, and I've always managed to get them off. This might be the exception to the rule. See, you want this to the outside, never the inside. Those are all looking good. Let's break out the new shoes. So probably ought to get that rotor off first, though, before I start putting brand new shoes on. So why don't I go beat on that thing some more, see if I can make that happen before we go this extra mile. Otherwise, I might have to call for help. I got it! Thanks to Piston Shack on YouTube. And here's what I did. Got this little handy trick. Got a long bolt. You're supposed to have a couple of nuts right there, but all I had were wing nuts with a bolt this long, and I just put them right there and kept cranking that nut until it popped the rotor off. I am good to go now. And off comes the rotor. And before we go any further, I'm going to clean up that wheel hub so that the next rotor doesn't get stuck. Hit it with the penetrating oil. I don't have much left, but I don't need a whole lot for this. Spray that down around there. We come in with our trusty wire brush. I've also got a smaller one that's used for cleaning up spark plugs. Not spark plugs, batteries. So just come in here, clean it up real good. And pray you didn't screw up your wheel hub by beating on the thing. Just really get in there as good as you can. Just kind of clean it up here a little bit. Don't worry, there'll still be a nice sheen of lubricant on there. Now let's get that piston compressed. Take it off the bungee, take down our caliper. So I've got this thing hanging right there. Now I've got to get this tool in there to compress those calipers. Okay, figured out a placement here. I'm holding the caliper in my left hand. I'm going to squeeze this tool with my right to compress the cylinders. I wish I could give you a better shot of this. I'm pretty sure this will work because the curvature is all exactly where it's supposed to be. And yes, they're compressing. See, that is against the two pistons. The two pistons, and then this lip is pulling back against the center lip of the caliper. So trying to give you the best shot of this I can. And the pistons are indeed compressing very slowly. Give your hand a nice workout. That seems to be about as far as it's going to go. Hope it's enough. I think it will be. Our pistons are compressed. Now to lube up the anti-rattle pins in this caliper bracket and get our brake shoes on. I'm also going to, lube up the ends of the shoes as well. I'm not going to overdo it. Just give it a little sheen there. And as you can see, this one has the what do you call that? The low brake shoe indicator. Okay. Now I'm ready to put it all back together. Hit the new rotor with some brake parts cleaner. Wipe it off. I used to never do this and I never had any consequences for it, cleaning the rotor. But purists will tell you have to. I mean, by the time you drive this thing around the block a couple of times, whatever's on there is going to burn off anyway. What I really like about this rotor is, see that right there, that extra hole in there? That's so I can get a bolt in there and make it easier in case this thing rusts on in the future, but it shouldn't because I put a sheen of lubricant. So, and what we're going to do to keep this nice and flush, I'm going to take one lug nut right here, and hand tight should be fine. Now we can put on the caliper bracket. Get the bolts back through the holes. Now that I got the bolts started, I'll just tighten them down by hand for now. Squeeze the brake shoes together, much as they'll possibly go. Take away our bungee. Anyway, we want to make sure to put that aside. Don't want to start driving down the road with the bungee still attached. I've done that before with a wire coat hanger, and it was not a good day. All right, it fits over with no issues. Get my caliper pin bolts in. The big boy is the caliper mounting bracket. You want to make sure that guy is right and tight. And what I normally do is I just take a hammer to the wrench and keep going until it just doesn't go anymore. That one's not moving anymore. Our caliper pins. And now this you want to be real careful with. I got them hand tight. I just want to dance the hammer on the end just a little bit, not hard. Just kind of a gentle tap till they stop moving. Let's get that tire back on and then replace the brake fluid in the reservoir. Kind of get it started, and then go every other lug right around the clock, a few turns at a time, so it just kind of starts to engage. All 5 of them just stop moving. All right, so time to let this thing down a little bit. We're going to first crank it up a little bit. That way I can get the jack stand out from underneath. And we're going to just lower it down until the tire just touches the ground. Just touching the ground. Now we will tighten the rest of the way up. And I like to go until they just don't go anymore. But I'll go around in a star pattern gently until they don't go anymore. Well, every other one, I mean. Every other lug. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll go suck fluid out of the brake fluid reservoir and replace it with fresh. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to suck a lot of that old dirty brake fluid out of the reservoir. It's kind of a quick and dirty method here. Make sure we got a nice clean funnel here. We're going to use this tool right here, which is really used for serviceable car batteries. Like if you got the old kind of car battery where you can pop the top and fill it with water, you can suck water out or whatnot. That's kind of what these are for, but they work great. Kind of like as a turkey baster type of thing. And you can see where the brake fluid level is. It's basically right up to the bottom of the nozzle of this reservoir, so when I refill it, I know just to put that amount back. We'll just take it from there. And I didn't really have any bottles or anything to stick it in, so I got this old dog food can, and I'll show you what I do with the old brake fluid after that. Just kind of put that under there, squeeze the air out first, suck in the brake fluid, and just keep going till you don't have any more. Now we'll just fill the reservoir with this .3 brake fluid. Make sure you use a nice clean funnel. Just go until we're reasonably back up where we left off. Because we are going to press that brake pedal, and when we do, it's going to drop that level some. Clean up as much of the spillage as I can. And last but not least, we've got our brake fluid reservoir cap, and as long as it's off, it's a good opportunity to just clean it up some. I'm not a bit worried that I'm going to go too far when I compress the brake pedal, because those are nice new brake shoes, so there's only so far it's going to compress. There we go. Now to go clean up, put the tools back in the van and take it for a test drive. And I want to make sure my tools are in the van in case I take it for a test drive, get out there, and then I find out that I've got a problem. I want to be able to address it. And I know all you environmentally conscious people are out there saying to yourselves, Neil, what are you doing with all that brake fluid that you put in the dog food can? Well, It's going to tick some of you off, but I'm telling you, it is harmless. I use this stuff as weed killer. I just make sure not to get it around any area where it's going to go and flow out to drainage. See, we're in the county, so there's no sewer here. It's kind of all natural drainage, but it doesn't go into creeks or lakes or anything like that unless you get to the drainage easement part. So if you've got an old asphalt driveway like I do, what I do when I've got grass and weeds poking out of the asphalt, I'll just go pour a little bit on those weeds and it kills them. It's the same stuff in it as weed killer. Okay, let's fire this baby up. Pump that brake pedal. Okay. It should pump up pretty short order there. There we go. We're all pumped up now. And we'll give it a test drive, see if we got any issues. All right, the moment of truth. Well, that stopped good and I didn't hear any rubbing. That's all good stuff. Get out in the cul-de-sac here. Squirrel. And no rubbing on the disengagement. I think we're good. Well, let's take a little spin around the block here first, though, just to make extra sure, and also have an eye behind us to make sure I don't see a trail of fluid behind me, especially when I hit the brakes. All right, we don't appear to be leaking anything. I think I'm gonna clean up a little bit more and take my family to lunch. But before I do, I'm back in the driveway. Test run went great. I am going to pop the hood and make sure that my brake fluid level is to the maximum line, and I don't need to show you guys that. All right. Thanks for stopping by. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. And if you're so inclined, go check out my other channel, which is Dandy Funhouse. Retro pop culture, toys and games, and all the fun stuff. I do a big feature every month, and every day I post little short 60-second snippets of the big feature. So go check me out at dandyfunhouse.com and on all the socials everywhere you'd normally find videos posted. All right, guys, stay dandy. Oh, by the way, oh yes, the rotor, the old rotor. Take it by O'Reilly's, see if they can resurface it. I'm going to guess they can't. If they can resurface it, it's about $25 to get done. If it's shot to heck and just can't be resurfaced, then a new one's going to be about $80, $85. All right, stay dandy, everyone.